Hello and welcome to this presentation on Sustainable Internationalization. My name is Josephine. I'm a lecturer at UCL School of Pharmacy. I will go through some definitions to give you context to my discussion. I would share with you an ongoing study and some of its findings. I will also share a video from a current student about her perspective of this topic before I summarize. I'll start with a definition of sustainable development, which is on the slide. And primarily what this aims to achieve is to preserve or improve our natural environment at the same time as providing a means to improve conditions for those who are socially or economically disadvantaged. There are 4 dimensions to sustainable development. There is society, culture, environment, and economy. And it's important to get a balance of all those dimensions in order to achieve sustainability. So, thinking about sustainability in internationalization, we also need to consider those 4 dimensions of the economy, of environment, of culture, and society for us to achieve a sustainable internationalization. This definition by Belen and Jones refers to internationalization at home, but I'm surprised that it's been taken by some authors as a definition of sustainable internationalization, which I don't agree with. I think it is part of the concept, but it is not. It doesn't fully define it. We are all aware and mindful of the environmental impact of international travel. We cannot deny that. But we also need to differentiate between the impact of short-term studies and long-term travel related, at the same time as thinking about the wider benefits to students and their source communities when we are engaging with this topic of sustainable internationalization. The UK has a large proportion of international students. I understand we've now exceeded the 600,000 mark. Nearly half of the international student population are postgraduate students. And that leads me to the ongoing project on overseas postgraduate education, motivations and outcomes, or OPMO. The background to this study relates to globalization, which, as we know, has increased that desire for people to study outside their country. There is a school of thought that suggests that those who travel outside their countries to study are ill-equipped to practice when they return home, and that international study is just a route to migration. I want to draw our attention to the World Health Organization's warning regarding migration of health workers and how this is impacting the healthcare of their communities. I also want to remind us about the United Nations prediction of healthcare workforce shortage. According to the prediction, there will be 18 million shortage in the healthcare workforce by the year 2030. And this is predicted to affect most low and low middle income countries more than the developed world. The OPMO study is set at UCL, which, as we know, is London's global university. The 2 programs of study are the clinical pharmacy, practice and policy, and physiotherapy studies. These 2 programs have a high proportion of international students, They provide placement experience so that students are able to work in a clinical environment in the UK for their experiential learning. The aim of the study was to find out why those practitioners who are qualified in their home countries chose to travel to UK for their education and to seek their perspective about the outcomes of engaging in international studies. These are some of the objectives of the study. One of the reasons we wanted to understand was how prepared these practitioners felt to return and work in their home countries. The study was a mixed method study, online questionnaire through Qualtrics, and one-to-one interviews, semi-structured interviews. The study was approved by the UCL Research Ethics Committee. 59 alumni contributed to the quantitative phase and 12 in the qualitative phase. The gender distribution reflects the gender distribution of the studies, so that was not surprising. With regards to the first objective, we can see from this result that overwhelmingly the reason for engaging in international postgrad education was for that international global experience. For these programs of study, one can assume that the immersive experiential learning could be part of that. In addition, not having access to postgraduate programs in their discipline, in their home source country, was another top reason for choosing to travel to the UK to study. In relation to the second objective, almost all the practitioners considered critical thinking skills to be an outcome of their study in the UK. And as we know, this is an essential skill that is needful for our global society. When it came to how prepared these practitioners felt about working, whether in the UK, in their home country, or anywhere else in the world, it's interesting to see that combining moderately well to extremely well, there doesn't seem to be a huge difference. So one could assume that these programs of study prepared these practitioners to work anywhere in the world, whether it's the UK or their home country or anywhere else. So in essence, it seemed to achieve its goal of preparing them for practice anywhere. I want to share with you some of the outcome from the qualitative interviews, and this is relating to objective 2 with regards to the perceived influence on their practice. I want you to look at the second participant here, the interview from 5002. And you could argue here, or you could suggest here, that for this practitioner, really, they are also sharing internationalization at home in their context, having returned to their home country. From the first excerpt here, we can see intercultural competence showing out from here. And I want to just say that these 5 respondents represented 5 different continents. We had Australasia, South America, Southeast Asia, Africa, as well as Europe. Those responses suggested a transformative experience from their postgraduate education, forming of identities, knowing who they are, having value the profession that they practice, and being confident to know how they want to move forward in their careers, from just being involved to influencing future generation. So Thinking about sustainable internationalization, I would argue that this is sustainable internationalization. So, yeah, critical thinkers, intercultural competence, global citizens, empowered practitioners. Are these good enough metrics for measuring whether a program has in its core sustainability? I think we need to really consider our practices. And also, if we're talking about intercultural competence, how much are we creating diversity or containing it in our settings? When it comes to global citizenship, which from a personal viewpoint, I feel is a con word, because how can you be a citizen of the world and not be able to practice anywhere? Well, yes, it is a global minded set of people that we want to develop. But we also need to check, are we creating opportunities through internationalization, or are we creating inequalities? I think that there needs to be a set of universal metrics that each organization could look at to see how they're performing. Currently, there's a lot of focus on environmental aspects of this concept, but we need to look at the whole, looking about the society and culture and economy. Now I'll share with you our perspective of a student.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gladys Habu, and today I am so grateful to have this opportunity to share with you my personal experience and understanding of sustainable internationalization. So, to contextualize what I am about to share, I'd like to give a brief introduction about myself, where I come from, and why I am here. I am a hospital pharmacist, and I come from the Solomon Islands, a little island country in the South Pacific of roughly 700,000 people. We are a few dots on the world's map, but as you can probably recognize, Australia there is just about a 3-hour flight from us. I also am a UNICEF Pacific Ambassador and Achieving Scholar, which is how my Master's in Clinical Pharmacy, International Practice and Policy at UCL is made possible. Outside of my profession, I am a very passionate advocate on climate action, maternal and child health, and generally in amplifying issues that need to be addressed in my country. Sustainable internationalization, in my view, looks roughly like this. Please know that these illustrations are not up to scale, but paint the picture that I am trying to portray. When I look at the life that I have lived in the Solomon Islands versus that of people in the United Kingdom, a female or male my age in the UK lives in a society with more opportunities, much better living standards, and many higher education institutions that everyone can choose from. We can see this represented in the graph there, but we could also see it represented in GDP per capita, which in the UK is almost 18 times that of ours. Thus, it is much easier compared to our very limited opportunities or standard of living and only 2 higher education institutions in the country. So, from my little island home, through my scholarship, despite flying 27 to 30 hours to get to UCL for my master's, I know that I differ from every other person who is on the plane with me, contributing to that consequential carbon footprint because of where I come from. It is because I know that even as a single person, I come in search of new knowledge and training that is not available to us, and one that will ultimately have a powerful multiplier effect in the lives of many Solomon Islanders. The same cannot be said for students in the UK, because everyone, or at least almost everyone, has access to higher education. If we then consider carbon footprint per capita, the average of every one person in the United Kingdom is equivalent to that of roughly 23 people in my country per year. Now, Josephine sent only 3 students from the Solomon Islands to study in the UK for 1 year. Our combined carbon footprint still adds to a very negligible amount. In this way, my international education journey is one of the most sustainable decisions I have ever made.
So, I hope you agree with me that we do need to look at this topic from a very, very broad perspective. It is complex, but we need to continually review our practices and take out those that do not align with educational goals and values. Internationalization of education should not be about making money. It should be about offering the opportunity to students who otherwise will not have access to it, and also thinking about the multiplied effect on their societies and their communities from engaging in international studies. I would like to propose a definition, a very simple one, of sustainable internationalization of education, just as development is explained, as one that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But we do need metrics. So thank you for your time. These are my references, and I will welcome your questions. Thank you.